Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the final wave of Biden pardons. And in fact, the wave is higher and stronger than has generally been reported. What we've been hearing is that members of Biden's family and then Mark Milley, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and Liz Cheney were pardoned. That's true. But the pardon reaches more broadly than that, especially as it concerns the January 6th committee. So the actual statement is, after a kind of preamble, which I'll get back to, I'm exercising my authority to pardon General Mark A. Milley, Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, the members of Congress and staff who served on the Select Committee, and the U.S. Capitol and D.C. Metropolitan Police officers who testified before the Select Committee. All right, so the Biden family, that was the sort of last, this is 20 minutes before he left. It seems self-serving, but, look, these were calculations he had in front of him. Say, for starters, the 60 people on Kash Patel's list, then the members of the committee, and then his family, because Trump has said again and again and again in the most sort of vicious terms, we're going to go after the Biden family, worst president in history, totally corrupt, etc. And it would be foolhardy to think that he's just kidding there. And if we learned anything from the first day of his presidency, it's that he wasn't. So his family is a special role. He'll take some heat for it, but there's just no doubt that they were very much in the crosshairs of Trump and his henchmen for coming in and undertaking reprisal prosecutions that you cannot emphasize enough would have been against people who have done no conceivable crime. We are really in the sort of epicenter of corrupt authoritarian regimes when the new strongman is just going after political enemies without even a pretense. All right, Milley, Fauci, and let's start with Milley and Fauci. They really have a similar kind of profile, which is they've served their country honorably for all their career. So and they are in the end of it now. They're retired, and so having to end their lives fighting off an unfair prosecution, maybe with money that they really don't have at the ready, having spent all their career in public service, would have been particularly outrageous in Biden's view. And he made a very strong case that their combination of the sort of vicious focus that Trump had put them in and their really not just blamelessness for any crimes, but long history of impeccable service. Really, the country should be thanking them and giving medals of honor instead of preparing, as Trump is doing, to kick them in the teeth. And then the same for the Select Committee. You could say this of Cheney in particular, who is now no longer a member of Congress because she had the courage to stick up against Trump. And just as certain people place bets on him, Eileen Cannon, Walt Nauta, and have been ridiculously unfairly rewarded. She has been ridiculously unfairly penalized in Wyoming, in the national landscape, etc. And she remains very high on the Trump enemies list. In fact, that was the person he singled out when he groused about Biden's wave of pardons at the lunch. He singled her out at the lunch and called her a crying lunatic. Also said, why are we trying to help a guy like Milley? Milley is the person who played a hero's role, making it known quietly that he wouldn't let Trump just take over the government and suspend the Constitution. This is back in 21. Milley and Fauci, by the way, both expressed gratitude toward Biden and accepted the pardon. There is an ongoing legal issue about whether or not you have to accept a pardon in order for it to be effective. I think the better answer is not. It may be that this will be played out in the courts now if Trump has the brazenness to go after people notwithstanding pardons. But they both were quick and grateful to accept it. Others, like Adam Schiff and Adam Kinzinger on the committee, made it be known they don't want to accept a pardon because it seems to imply a measure of guilt. Likewise, officers Michael Fanone, who was tased viciously by one of the marauders who received 12 and a half years in prison for it and yesterday was pardoned. He said he doesn't want a pardon either, but what would his putative crime be, or the thing that brings him to the attention of Trump, is testifying, doing his duty, his public duty, even if he weren't, adamant about going after Trump. It's a whole other level of nastiness for Trump to try to enact reprisals against people who basically answered the call of the law and testified to Congress. So, all of this is levels of disgusting. Let me point out, though, the people who weren't pardoned and that are, going to be potentially vulnerable, and some of them quite vulnerable. So I'm thinking of, we have the people in Congress who, by the way, might have had recourse to defense under the speech and debate clause. And we don't have any one of the prosecutors whom Trump has promised to go after, and Pam Bondi has suggested they might as well. They also ought to have a measure of immunity, but there are other witnesses. I'm thinking of Cassidy Hutchinson, who really was heroic, is young, and can be ruined. I'm thinking of Michael Cohen, who Trump regards as the sort of number one turncoat, and would, I think, be prepared to really make his life hell. Of course, Cohen's life already has been made hell. He did time in jail for the basic, same kinds of crimes as Trump was convicted for and got off with an unconditional discharge. But there are other witnesses, especially young ones. They came forward and they're on the hit list. And Biden did not. That's where he sort of drew a line. He wanted in particular to insulate the long-serving members of government like Fauci and Milley. It expressed his, kind of and his statement expressed his kind of reverence for public service. Now, other people, though, who were honest, totally instrumental in advancing the knowledge of what happened and gutsy, are now in the cold. He couldn't cover everyone. I'm sure there were a lot of discussions about where to draw the line in the Oval Office in the last frenetic days. And so here are people who are on the other side of the line. And I'll just say one thing. Mark Milley, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the sort of specter of the outgoing president needing to pardon the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's done nothing wrong, because the incoming president would be, preparing a howitzer to go after him by corrupting the legal levers that he now has his hands on. That's really almost a singular image of corrupt authoritarian rule. There's just no doubt that Biden anticipated a really woeful state of affairs, did what he could to stiff arm it somewhat, and Trump came into office, and especially with these wholesale pardons, which we'll talk about in another YouTube, completely justified Biden's concern in using his last ounce of presidential power to cover people who had done nothing wrong and much right, and now are, but for the pardons, maybe notwithstanding the pardons, and others who didn't get the pardons for that reason alone, are in a terribly vulnerable position at the hands of our new tyrant president. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.